hammerhead shark. Some of these sharks were endangered species. The live sharks were safely relocated to a nearby aquarium, and Joshua was charged with illegal possession of sharks and intent to sell them. Number 10. Migrants. In February of 2024, a routine inspection of a furniture store in New York took a surprising turn. The inspector found something no one expected: 74 migrant men from West Africa living in the basement. These individuals were seeking asylum in the United States, a process that has become increasingly difficult in recent times. What's important to note is that the store owner wasn't exploiting these men. Instead, they were trying to help. New York City's shelters were completely full, and if these men had gone there, they likely would have been turned away in a matter of weeks. To provide some relief, the store owner offered them a place to stay, hoping it would help them while they awaited more permanent solutions. The only reason the inspection even happened was due to complaints from the store's neighbors. They claimed there were constant disturbances, with people running in and out of the building late at night. Despite these complaints, the men were simply trying to survive and find a safe place to rest. When authorities found the migrants, they were relocated to a shelter, but many of them expressed a preference for staying at the store. This speaks volumes about the conditions they faced, both in shelters and while seeking asylum. Even the mayor of New York City acknowledged the issue, stating that something must be done to prevent makeshift housing like this from continuing to pop up. Number 9. A million pennies. While cleaning out a father-in-law's house, an unusual discovery was made in the basement. Bags and bags filled with pennies. After doing the math, the family realized there were 1 million pennies, which is $10,000 in coins. What made this even stranger was that the pennies were scattered throughout the house, even in crawl spaces, making it a tough job to collect them all. The house itself was a cluttered mess, filled with boxes and crates collected by the father-in-law and other relatives who had lived there. Sorting through the clutter to uncover 1 million pennies was not something anyone would have expected. The family considered cashing the pennies in, but they soon realized that using a coin machine would mean paying a fee, and transporting that many pennies to the bank would be a massive headache. They even called the bank directly, but the bank wasn't interested in accepting the coins. In the end, they decided to sell the collection online, hoping someone would buy the pennies in bulk. It's unclear if they found a buyer, but whoever gets them might be in for a surprise. There could be rare coins hidden among the lot, and if so, the buyer could score a great deal. As for the family, they were simply eager to get rid of the coins and the clutter. After dealing with such a massive find, it's easy to see why. Number 8. Nazi tank. In 2015, a quiet town in northern Germany was rocked by a discovery that sounded more like a war relic from a museum than something you'd expect to find in someone's home. An elderly man, later identified as Klaus-Dieter F., had a fully operational World War II-era Panther tank hidden in his basement in Heikendorf. The 84-year-old had collected and restored the 40-ton tank, along with an array of other war memorabilia, including an anti-aircraft gun, over 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and various Nazi artifacts. Authorities were tipped off when investigators searching for stolen Nazi art came across the stash. It took nearly 20 soldiers over 9 hours to extract the tank from the basement, a scene that left the entire town in disbelief. The man had reportedly even driven the tank around his neighborhood in the 1970s, once using it to clear snow during a particularly harsh winter. Despite the fascination surrounding this unusual collection, Klaus-Dieter F. was sentenced to a 14-month suspended prison sentence and fined approximately $300,000. The court also ruled that the tank and other weapons must be sold or donated to a museum, emphasizing that his collection violated Germany's strict War Weapons Control Act. Number 7. Secret occupant. Velma Kellen, a 73-year-old retiree living in Yelm, Washington, began noticing that her house was unusually cold as the year 2012 came to an end. Despite setting her furnace to the maximum, the house remained chilly. Frustrated, she called a repairman to check the furnace in the basement. When the repairman arrived, he discovered that the furnace was working fine, but something strange had happened. The air duct had been torn in a way that redirected the heat to the basement instead of warming the upstairs. As he looked around, he noticed empty beer bottles and other trash scattered across the basement floor. Velma was shocked when she heard the news and started recalling other odd occurrences, like the smell of cigarettes in her home at random times, and her backyard gate being left open, even though she was sure she had closed it. Both she and the repairman quickly realized that someone had been secretly living in her basement. Velma contacted the police, and they investigated further. They believed the intruder had been accessing the basement through a crawl space, which was covered by a slab of stone. The air duct was repaired the next day, and while no arrests were made, the discovery left Velma shaken. To this day, it remains unclear how long the person had been living there, and there have been no further incidents. Number 6. Revolutionary War Soldiers. When homeowners in Ridgefield, Connecticut began renovating their 18th century home, they likely expected to find outdated fixtures or old flooring. However, the discovery of 3 skeletons beneath the basement changed everything. The bones, uncovered in 2019, were later identified as being from men between the ages of 21 and 50. Archaeologists believe these remains are connected to the Revolutionary War, specifically the Battle of Ridgefield, fought in 1777. The skeletons were found buried only 4 feet below the surface in a hastily dug grave, which suggests these individuals may have died during the chaotic aftermath of the battle. Ridgefield was the site of one of Connecticut's most significant inland Revolutionary War skirmishes, where American militia led by Benedict Arnold clashed with British forces retreating from a raid in nearby Danbury. What made the discovery even more fascinating was the well-preserved state of the skeletons, allowing archaeologists to conduct thorough analyses. Early reports indicate that the men may have been militiamen, as evidenced by the size and structure of their bones. Buttons found near the remains are being examined, and researchers are using DNA and forensic studies to potentially uncover the identities of these men. Before we move on, here's today's subscriber's pick. Imagine living in your home for months without ever setting foot in the basement. For one couple in the Midwest, it was just a storage area, a place they barely thought about. But one day, they heard a strange noise coming from below. At first, they thought it was just mice. But curiosity got the best of them, and they decided to check it out. What they found left them absolutely stunned. A group of strangers, dressed in dark, Gothic attire, had been sneaking into their basement. These intruders weren't just there for mischief. They were trying to contact the dead using a Ouija board. Apparently someone had died in the house decades ago, and this group believed they could reach that spirit. The couple was terrified, and immediately called the authorities. The outcome? A restraining order was issued against the uninvited visitors, but the eerie experience stayed with the couple. It's one thing to hear bumps in the night, but discovering a cult in your own basement? That's enough to make anyone lose sleep. What would you do if you found something like this in your home? Let us know in the comments below. Number 5. Chapel. Most abandoned places carry a certain level of mystery, but when it's tied to a secret religious sect, the fear factor jumps up a notch. That's exactly what happened when Pat and Diane Farlow decided to explore the hidden corners of their 170-year-old house. What they uncovered beneath a metal grid in their basement was far from ordinary. They found an abandoned chapel, seemingly untouched for decades. In the center of the chapel lay a cross, ominously placed on the floor. Hooks dangled from the ceiling, adding an eerie, unsettling atmosphere to the room. With each step deeper into the hidden space, the couple's curiosity grew. But what was this place? Why had it been hidden away for so long? Some clues suggested that the chapel may have been used by secret religious sects, groups that practiced their faith in secrecy due to persecution. Catholics or other nonconformists in centuries past may have used this concealed place for clandestine worship. An even more intriguing detail was uncovered: a set of stairs hidden behind a cupboard in the dining room, which could have served as a secret passage to this eerie chapel. Whether used for worship or refuge, the chapel spoke of a hidden history, a world of secrecy buried right beneath their feet. Number 4. Mysterious safe and weapons cache. In October of 2015, a series of photos were posted on a popular image-sharing website by a man named Jerry, who had recently moved into his own home. He had purchased the house just 2 weeks prior, and while it was very old, the low price made it a great deal for a first-time buyer. The previous owner had passed away, and the basement was packed with so much junk that Jerry could barely navigate it. As he began cleaning the cluttered basement, he noticed a piece of plywood that seemed oddly placed against the wall. It was pinned beneath the stairs, and something about it caught his attention. After some effort, Jerry managed to pry the plywood loose, revealing a hidden room behind it. Inside the room, he immediately spotted a locked safe. But that wasn't all. The small room contained multiple gun cases, stacked one on top of the other. along with crates of ammunition in various types and calibers. Among the most surprising discoveries was a hand grenade, although it was inactive and missing the safety pin. As for the locked safe, Jerry never shared an update on whether he managed to open it or not, leaving everyone wondering what might be inside. Number 3. Snake infestation. Royce Robbins and Shannon McFadden thought they had found their dream home in Elizabeth, Colorado. That is, until they started noticing a strange pattern. Garter snakes began appearing around their yard, and soon, these unwelcome visitors were spotted popping up through the wooden slats of their back deck. As spring gave way to warmer weather, the problem only got worse, with the snakes not only crawling around outside, but even sneaking into their home. The couple soon realized they were dealing with a massive infestation. Over 150 snakes had made a den beneath their house. The snakes, primarily garter snakes, are harmless to humans, but finding so many slithering creatures hiding under the deck turned their dream home into a nightmare. Their attempts to manage the situation on their own failed, and they eventually called in professional help. The exterminators worked to remove the reptiles, but the process wasn't cheap. The couple ended up spending over $8,000 to get rid of the snakes, replace the deck, and build a new shed. The infestation had been so extensive that snakes kept reappearing, and it seemed that the previous owners had conveniently forgotten to mention this in the house's sale. Number 2. Bear. Imagine hearing strange noises under your house, snoring sounds, rumblings, but dismissing them as a figment of your imagination. That's exactly what happened to a family in Lake Tahoe, California. Over the winter, they heard odd sounds but never suspected what was really beneath their home. A family of 5 bears, hibernating quietly in their crawl space. A mother bear had taken her 3 cubs, plus an orphaned cub she adopted, to shelter in the hidden space, making it their cozy winter den. For months, the bears slept undisturbed, unnoticed by the human occupants of the home. It wasn't until spring, when the bears started to stir, that the family realized something was living right under their feet. They quickly contacted the Bear League, a local volunteer group experienced in bear rescues. The Bear League responded immediately, safely guiding the bears out of the crawl space. Watching the bear family emerge, first the mother, then her cubs, was an unforgettable scene for the family and neighbors alike. This is not unusual in Lake Tahoe, where up to 150 bears annually seek shelter under homes during hibernation season. Number 1. Poop-covered man. One day, police received a frantic call from a concerned grandparent, reporting that their grandson was in the basement, destroying property and acting erratically. The situation took an alarming turn when it was revealed that the young man had threatened to harm himself and might have been under the influence of drugs. When officers arrived on the scene, they found the 23-year-old man in a truly shocking state. He was naked, covered in fecal matter, and violently hitting his head against the low ceiling. The man was clearly in a state of crisis, jumping on furniture and injuring himself. Given his agitated and uncooperative behavior, the officers were left with no choice but to subdue him for his safety. A taser was deployed to prevent further self-harm, and the man was taken into custody. He was immediately transported for a mental health evaluation and, of course, cleaned up after the ordeal. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.